Welcome back to Rapid Tech in 10, where we give you tech-related takeaways in 10 minutes or less. I am your SoftwareOne host, Bree Sharpella, and joining us this month, we have Wes Lewis, Strategic Account Manager here at SoftwareOne. Wes, welcome to our Tech Talk.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we're super excited to have you. To kick us off, as always, as you all know, I've got an icebreaker question for us. So what is one thing, Wes, a lot of your customers and maybe even colleagues may not know about you?
One good bit of trivia that I like to share is that for me, my family's livelihood growing up, money actually did grow on trees. And that's because my dad actually founded a business that started by making Christmas wreaths. And if you've ever made a Christmas wreath, you just take the branches off the pine trees and tie them together into a ring and decorate them with pine cones or cranberries or whatever you have. So for my family, money grew on trees. It wasn't much money, but it was good.
That is so interesting. I had no idea. And as we know, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we have a ton of, wreath selling businesses when you're a kid, and it's always around the house. So that is
The Boy
awesome. We'll have to
Scouts
connect.
The Boy Scouts do a lot of fundraising with my dad's business.
Oh, I love that. Well, I don't know how we can beat money growing on trees, but it actually is probably a good segue into our conversation today. So, without further ado, let's dive in. First, this time of the year is really exciting for us at SoftwareOne. It signifies our ITAM Virtual Summit. So, this is our fourth annual virtual conference. It is back, and it is back for 3 days this year. So, April 23rd through the 25th. And I wanted to use our time together just to chat a little bit about it. And the theme is all about visible and streamlined IT. So that kind of means helping our customers create a clear roadmap for automating processes, purchasing, governance, AI, all those things that we're talking about right now. So Wes, I'm curious with your role and seeing this in action, what types of conversations are you and your customers and prospects having today? And then maybe like what challenges are you also discussing?
Yeah. So it's all kind of connected a little bit, right? IT asset management and software asset management and software as a service management. I'm actually talking to some of the conversations that I'm kind of excited by are conversations that I'm having with world-class procurement teams that work for manufacturing companies, and they're really cool companies making really cool high-tech gadgets and devices. And like I said, they've got procurement teams that are some of the best at what they do. But a lot of them don't have that piece that is IT asset management or software specialty. And the reason this is important is because when you're procuring a hard asset, it's significantly, if not fundamentally different than a software asset. When you're looking at building a widget or a car or a device or something like that, you're buying hard assets, you're buying nuts and bolts and things that are ultimately going to go into the cost of goods sold. And you're kind of effectively making margin off that widget or whatever it is that's going into your product that you're selling. And so it's kind of easy to account for that. You know exactly how many you're getting and how many you need to build your thing that you sell to the customers and make this amount of money on. So that's really easy, and kind of old school accounting helps you find your head around that. But again, it's fundamentally different than the whole software piece. And that's why I'm kind of trying to educate my customers who have, some of them are the same people buying literally nuts and bolts and steel and metal. They're also signing their software contracts. And there's a lot of nuances to software that doesn't necessarily exist with some of the traditional hard assets that a company might be purchasing. So it's about gaining the transparency into what those nuances are. For me, that's kind of the main value of IT asset management, is getting visibility into that so that we can start to account for them the same way that we've been accounting for the cost of goods sold for a millennia, as long as a business has existed. Right now, a lot of companies find themselves throwing software and technology into a bucket of overhead that's a little bit ambiguous, but it doesn't have to be that way. There's a lot of technology partners out there that we have right now that can help you calculate the total cost of the software that you're running and even compare it to, maybe making an investment of building something on your own. What's the infrastructure going to be like that? What is the headcount going to be like that? Do I have to hire developers to actually build this application? Or can we, instead of buying new software, can we use an old tool that we had and maybe upgrade it or something like that? These are all
Yeah,
things that are inherently
harvesting.
different.
We hear a lot about that these days. How can you take what is existing and make more of it or do more with it?
That's right. And with physical assets, you can't really do that. You've got, you need 1,000 bolts and nuts to go into the device you're making, and you can't make the same device with less nuts or bolts, however you might look at it.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. And we talk about, a lot of this today, but what are you most excited about seeing? You saw the lineup, you saw some of the names that are going to be speaking. What are you excited to see? What are you looking to learn maybe from the seminar?
Yeah. So aside from Rich Gibbons' just accent and his potential to drop a gangster rap reference, um, I'm really excited about seeing what some of the technology vendors out there are bringing to the table with this new level of transparency that not only lets us do proper IT asset management, but application portfolio management and visibility into enterprise architecture as a whole. APM and enterprise architecture for me is not the evolution of ITAM, but kind of the overarching piece to an effective ITAM program. It's less about saying, let's take my dad's business, for example. I need 500 pounds of pine boughs to make this, the amount of wreaths that I need, and I'm going to need, 600 pine cones to decorate them with. I'm going to go to my supplier of those goods and say, I'm buying a lot here. Give me a discount. That's kind of traditional ITAM, is how much am I paying for each little piece and how am I using each one and making sure that those things match up.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we could take a step back and say, we have this software or we have this hardware, we have this technology being used. This is how much we're paying for it. Maybe we think we're getting a good price or a bad price, but under the context of everything else that's going on, how does that fit in? And does that fit in with our long-term strategy? Right. So maybe we're really happy with the fact that we were able to lowball Microsoft this year and only take a 5% price increase over the last year's contract. Maybe that's one thing you can look at and you can feel good about that. But are you also paying for a security vendor that maybe you could leverage Microsoft's technology stack to handle your security piece? Can you make better decisions based on the big picture rather than each individual contract, making sure that you're getting, the right value from? So there's multiple levels, right? And I think that they're all important. Being in ITAM my entire career, I'm all about, what's being used, how much are we paying for it? Are we overpaying? Are we not paying enough? Right? I think that's really important, and you need to start there and you need to get those fundamentals. But if we can take a step back and say, should we even be buying that at all? There's some really big opportunities when you start having those conversations.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point. It's the little things you can do every single day that can contribute greatly to your end goal. And I think that's super powerful. Well, lastly, who, in your opinion, should register for our ITAM Summit? I know we talk a lot about IT professionals as a whole, but is there anyone you would specifically say, absolutely, make sure you register to get the most value out of our 3-day seminar?
Anybody who's looked at a technology bill and said, I'm not sure that's worth it. Anybody, finance, IT, wherever it lands in your company. Maybe you're leading a team of developers or something like that, and you're responsible for some of the technology that you guys are provisioning. If you look at that bill and you're like, that can't be right, attend this conference.
Well, folks, you heard it here first. Wes, thank you so much for chatting all things ITAM Virtual Summit with us today. I also want to, as always, extend a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in to SoftwareOne's Rapid Tech in 10 to learn more about our unique 3-day virtual event covering all the hot topics such as cost savings, AI. Make sure to save your spot by visiting the link in our comments. I'll make sure to have it readily available for you all below. Thanks so much, Wes. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Excited.